Welcome to Ketchy Gaming, and I'm Ketchy1383. I'm going to do part 3 of my Final Fantasy VII Intergrade review slash critique. So it looks like this is going to be a 4-parter. I intended to do 3 parts, but after recording all my lines from my script, I didn't realize I had recorded over an hour's worth of material to go through, and I don't think people would willingly sit through that much material of one of my videos. Probably not even for 30 minutes, but that's what I cut it off at. I last left off at the end of chapter 14, right before they ascend the wall, so that's where I'll start up with my review. After all is said and done for this chapter, the party ascends the rubble to get to Shinra Tower in the center of Midgar. Along the way, they try to go as quietly as possible, but mess up and have to fight their way to the plate, where they encounter another boss. There's a rather annoying segment that involves the boss spraying bullets at Cloud, and with the flinch mechanics, it just makes it really annoying to get through due to the short periods that you have to get to cover before it starts shooting again. So this boss also flies, but this time Cloud and Tifa can jump and attack it. Also, it launches a drone that shoots a laser that can be used against it by standing under it before it fires. Other than that, it's not that special of a fight. There's a sudden transition to night, and the party attempts to get into the Shinra Tower by riding on top of a vehicle, and Barrett messes up, causing a fight in the garage. I would mention that no alarms went off, but there is a reason why, and that gets covered later. When the party enters the main lobby and discovers a convenient key card at the front desk, Tifa then has to climb through the light fixtures in order to drop down into the cubicle that contains the front desk. I'm not sure why this part was put in the game other than a way to hide Tifa's final weapon. Outside of one direction to get to her weapon, there are no other parts, so it seems out of place and kind of pointless. I guess the takeaway is make sure you get her weapon. After all that, you have 2 choices to make. Use the elevator or use the stairs to go up. The stairs are boring and take a long time.
Where are we? It looks like we're in the teens somewhere.
Okay. But when we get to 20, tell me. I'm gonna throw up.
While the elevator has some enemies and a cutscene where they almost attack a woman when the elevator doors open. This next part destroys the pace of the game. After all the fighting, the party has to go up a series of escalators. Like, seriously, just 3 or 4 of them, and nothing happens. Then they go through an exhibit dedicated to the Shinra Power Company, where they see a bunch of things they have made. The problem is, there are multiple hallways you have to stand in while a video plays on the wall, talking about the company and its division's leaders. There is a room dedicated to President Shinra. There is probably a first name somewhere, but when I looked online, it just says President Shinra. So that's why I've always just referred to him as President Shinra. The room makes him out to be like Walt Disney. Probably not the best comparison, but that's what I thought when I saw it. The last room ends with a virtual model of Midgar. After climbing some stairs, the party goes into a VR chamber where they go through a presentation about the ancients. During this part, they read a passage from one of the writings, and I guess it's supposed to be their source of motivations for taking Aerith. Anyone who has played the original or even paid attention to some of the cutscenes knows what the passage really means. I'm fine with giving some background and motivation to the villains, but did I have to go through a whole exhibit? Why not have an option to skip it? You can skip VR presentations. Why not the overindulgent self-congratulatory shrine to their hubris? Even after that, they are not done. You have to go see the mayor of Midgar. He is mayor in title only, and is the reason why the alarms have not been sounded. He tells the group they need to be tested first, and to go find a Shinra employee in a suit and tie. Thanks for the vague description. Don't forget to talk to the butler to buy Barrett's final weapon. The party goes into a cafeteria and finds the guy without issues, and even though everyone in the building is wearing a suit and tie. For some reason, there's another VR chamber in the cafeteria. I guess it's for entertainment purposes? But the guy has the party go in and fight some simulations. After exiting, they get a key card and they run into a pair of Shinra troops, and one of them recognizes Cloud and goes to get someone else that has met him. The party doesn't wait around and they go up a floor. They use the air ducts to listen in on a meeting of the division leaders. President Shinra says they are not going to rebuild the Sector 7 plate and presents Neo Midgard. This is kind of where I got the idea that he just wants Midgard to be destroyed or just fall apart, and lets Avalanche do its thing, along with probably starting a new war with Wutai. After the cutscene in the conference room, the party follows Dr. Hojo into his lab. The action picks up again and they fight through the lab to get to Aerith. After beating one of Hojo's experiments and several Shinra guards, the Whispers appear again and take Hojo away, and I had to check, but Barrett did touch him, so I think that's why he could see them. Barrett then shoots the control panel on Aerith's cell, releasing her and somehow Red 13 as well, allowing him to escape, and he goes after Hojo, but manages to escape up the elevator. Red 13 turns on Aerith, but she touches him and his rage dissipates. After a brief conversation, Cloud has one of his visions and passes out. Cloud wakes up in a small room with everyone else there. The room is where Aerith spent a good deal of time as a child, with one wall almost completely drawn over. Here is where I have a big issue with the game. Red 13 is not playable at this point in the remake. The reason that was given was he would not appear till late in the game, and something about him growing as a character. Never mind that the two other parts that potentially come out later that could continue any development that started in the first part. The party gets a message from Wedge while in the same room as the mayor. He lets them know he persuaded the main faction of Avalanche to send a helicopter for them. Also, Chadley is in the same room that Cloud passed out in, and you can get the last summoning materia by defeating Bahamut in a simulation room nearby. Additional challenges also become available. Some of these challenges are defaulted to hard mode, so even if you lower the difficulty in the options menu, you still have to do them on the hard difficulty. There are two notable challenges. Both are boss rushes and need to be completed to earn all the trophies. I guess this is a good time to talk about them. The first is a series of fight against legendary monsters from the game, starting out with a bomb. How it's considered a legendary monster is beyond me. Yes, there were only two in the arena, but they were not around at this point in time in the original, so I'm not sure how that qualifies it as legendary. Then there's a Tonberry. It is not nearly as bad as its Final Fantasy XV brethren, but it does have one-hit kills. It is not a particularly enjoyable fight, since you have to constantly switch between characters, so it will change its focus so it does not kill whatever character you are controlling. Then there's a Behemoth, and I've already said my piece on fighting Behemoth. Then you fight a Tonberry and a bomb together. It's even more annoying and not that much of a threat. Lastly, there's the Malboro. Anyone who has played any Final Fantasy in the last 2 decades knows about a Malboro's bad breath and how cheap the fight is without the right accessories to protect you. Unlike previous Final Fantasy games, it does not start out by using bad breath, which is a relief considering that is part of why they were so difficult to begin with. It is a big monster that constantly attacks with its tentacles, and will telegraph its bad breath, giving you plenty of time to get out of the area it covers. For you trophy hunters, it's not enough just to beat the monster. You have to have one character get hit while the enemy's skill materia is equipped, and it does apply several status effects to the character hit, so make sure you have a separate character that has the materia with Asuna. The last challenge says it's a secret, but only the last enemy is a secret, so now you fight through all the summons on hard mode, which increases the damage and alters or adds to the mechanics of the fight. I never really covered it, but to get the summoning materia outside of Ifrit and the Fat Chocobo, you have to fight them in order for Chadley to make them. Shiva has more ice crystals. The Fat Chocobo spawns more ads. The Leviathan, I'm not sure about, but maybe more whirlwinds. Bahamut summons Ifrit. So if you watch a video with Bahamut and they say it's on hard, but he does not summon Ifrit, it's not on hard. And you can't stop it either. The last one is Pride and Joy prototype. A big robot with an arsenal of weapons. Bahamut is much harder and kind of feels like a gatekeeping method or rite of passage to get to it. The fight is rather easy considering the barrier of entry. It's not challenging in its mechanics. It stomps around, shoots projectiles, and falls down doing AoE damage. Just make sure you equip an elemental materia and link it with a fire materia, and there should be no problem. Also, make sure it's in an armor slot. When you beat it, you get a Götterdämmerung. I beat Pride and Joy the first time I fought it, and on my second playthrough on hard, and it made the rest of the game easy. Getting back to the main story, the party goes to an elevator when more of the purple monsters from Sector 7 attack. After defeating them, they go up an elevator and approach a catwalk. Then Cloud sees Sephiroth again. This time, he does not hesitate and attacks. And unlike previous encounters, he is there and blocks Cloud's sword before cutting the catwalk, causing Cloud to fall. There are tons of tanks containing the same purple monsters, but Red comes to Cloud's aid. They meet up with Barret, and the game turns into a series of getting to dead ends, activating doors and platforms, then switching to Tifa and Aerith, doing the same thing before switching back to Cloud and Barret. This eventually leads to a boss where Cloud and Barret start the fight, and Tifa and Aerith finish it off. It's not that bad when Cloud and Barret combat it, but when it flies off and Tifa and Aerith are confined to a narrow round catwalk, and it flies higher than Tifa can jump, so she can only damage it with magic, which is very reminiscent of the Airbuster fight. After the boss is defeated and everyone reunites, they follow a trail of shiny purple fluid and takes another elevator up to President Shinra's office. Instead of finding him impaled by Sephiroth's sword, he is hanging off the side of the building. Barret saves him and he runs back into his office, grabs a gun, and then is stabbed by Sephiroth and a phantom blade. He then stabs Barret, and the Whispers come in and pile on him. He gets up bewildered and unaffected by Sephiroth's phantom blade. Then the party fights the Genova Dreamweaver. It's not that hard of a fight, but even with weaknesses, it felt like the fight dragged on too long due to its multiple phases. I also found cutting down the tentacles to be a bit annoying since they seem to keep spawning before the boss is pressured. After it goes down, it fades or dissipates, revealing the man in the tattered black robes with the 49 tattooed on his shoulder. The wiki says it casts illusions, but I have always had issues with this in media where the protagonist attacks the illusions and defeats the source. I would like to think he was more of a conduit for Genova. The party heads to the roof and they see Sephiroth fly up to a tower. Whispers come in and they pass between Cloud and Sephiroth, revealing that it's not actually Sephiroth, it's another one of the robed men with a number 2 on his shoulder, and then he jumps off the roof with Genova in his arms. The helicopter sent by the main faction of Avalanche gets shot down, and Rufus Shinra makes an appearance. Cloud stays behind to fight Rufus. I know I said the fight between Rude and Reno was bullshit, but this fight was absolute garbage. when I played it on hard mode on the PS4. So during the Genova Dreamweaver fight, I conserved Cloud's mana, knowing I had to fight Rufus. But when it came to the point of starting the fight, it took all of my mana away, except for 8 mana points. I'm not sure why they did that, but it made the fight way harder than it needed to be. It is bad enough that Rufus zooms around the helipad and can shoot way more bullets than his gun can physically hold, but Cloud can only attack when he is reloading, which has a very short window, and he will counter if you do attack while he is not reloading, without fail, unless under the effects of stop. So, if he zoomed all the way to the other end of the helipad, unloaded, and you failed to dodge or block, you had 0 chance of getting to him, even if he did reload. I looked up a video, and the only way to get enough mana to cast stop right off the bat was to significantly increase Cloud's MP, which meant starting the whole chapter over. Because I'm a glutton for punishment, I found a strategy that worked. It involved materia that generated mana. It does this very slowly while in combat, and I had to use it most of the time to heal. I was good enough to take out Darkstar within the first 20 seconds. I had to run around and dodge the attacks I could, block others like the shotgun attack, and hope he was close enough to attack when he reloaded. I was able to get Cloud's limit break, stagger him, and beat him down. It took a few hours, and it was some of the worst game design I have ever seen. When I played Intergrade, the fight had been tweaked. Cloud kept all of his MP, and it took me 2 tries to beat Rufus. And the first try was due to me forgetting to equip the materia I needed. Once Rufus is defeated and Cloud falls from another blown up platform, Tifa saves him just in time. It then transitions to Barret and Aerith, who fight their own boss. It is similar to other fights against machine bosses, except it has 3 shield generators that take way too long to destroy in order to move into the next phase of the boss. There is an intense moment that is triggered after its HP gets to a certain point, and I had no idea it was going to happen. I had Barret use his limit break, and because it damaged it to this point, it triggered a cutscene and stopped the attack and any damage it did. This happened a lot during my playthroughs on hard mode, and it is just bad game design. Let the attack finish, then do the cutscene and count the damage. It punishes you for making strategic decisions, or one you think will be a strategic decision. After the boss fight, Barret, Aerith, and Red are then surrounded by Shinra troops in the main lobby, and Cloud saves them by doing the same thing Roche did, slamming a motorcycle into them. The motorcycle he is riding is the one on the podium and is the one that came with the first class edition. Tifa picks him up in a small car with a short bed. It then has a cutscene that transitions to the highway escape, just like the original, but using the same mechanics from Chapter 4. The last part of the game is like a boss rush, with several bosses almost back to back. This leads to another boss fight, but on the bike. The whole segment and fight on hard mode goes on for way too long, due to how much damage it takes to kill the boss. There are long stretches where you have no way to attack, and you have to dodge explosives and balls of electricity. It also feels like the brakes take way too long to engage, when you need to slow down to avoid damage. After defeating the boss on the roadway and making it to the end, the Whispers make another appearance. This is when the Whispers come out in mass, and everyone can see them. At the end of the highway, instead of leaving the city like in the original, the party enters the blinding white light and starts the last boss phase, where you fight the Whispers.
Never tried to challenge destiny.
This could well be her last line of defense. It won't be easy. Let's go.
There are 3 large whispers with different weapons and colors, and a giant one in the background. The party fights them, then gets separated, and you fight different whispers in pairs. Then they join together and form Whisper Bahamut. Its mechanics are the same as Bahamut on normal. After beating it, they separate, and Barrett goes off with Red. As the party defeats each Whisper, Barrett gets supercharged by Red, and they attack the giant Whisper. When this happens, streams of light fly towards the characters, and they see versions of scenes from the original game, with the explanation that they are visions of the future if they do not stop Sephiroth. How Red knows this, it is not explained, but the Whispers are here to make sure events happen the way they were intended to. That's the explanation of the Whispers. After defeating the trio of Whispers, and the giant one in the background, the group fights Sephiroth. This is one of the hardest, if not the hardest, fights in the game. He is fast, he hits like a brick, and unlike the other bosses or enemies, he will switch focus to whatever character you are controlling. It is a sort of multi-phase boss fight. You start out as Cloud, and he starts off easy, especially with Cloud using his Punisher mode. After so much damage, Cloud gets beat back, and one of the other 3 characters comes in and saves him. Supposedly, there is a hidden mechanic during the fight with the 3 Whispers that affects what character will be part of the fight. I have no idea, and did not bother to experiment. When I played on the PS4, I had Tifa. When I played on Intergrade, I had Barrett. As Sephiroth's health is reduced, he ramps up his attacks, including rotating through different elements and a major attack called Heartless Angel that can wipe the party. It is a difficult fight, requiring constant character switching in order just to keep everyone alive and to be able to do damage. There might be some hidden mechanics, which there are a few that I did not mention, but if there are, I did not notice them or was completely unaware. I will admit, the Götterdämmerung made this fight way easier on my Intergrade playthrough. I had to do it only twice. When I played on the PS4, it took me several hours, and a large part of that was due to a glitch. So when you fail, you're asked if you want to go back to the beginning of the encounter, which starts you off at the fight with the 3 Whispers. Or you can fight Sephiroth again. It did not matter which one I chose, it would put me back at the very beginning. I had to have a perfect run in order to beat the game on hard. Because I'm a masochist, I did it. And it was no wonder it only took me 2 tries to beat him again on my Intergrade playthrough. I earned the Platinum Trophy, and it took 100 hours on the PS4, and I did it again in 70 hours with Intergrade. Even though I could transfer data to the PS5 and get them that way in seconds, yes, I earned 2 Platinum Trophies for the same game. So that was part 3 of my Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade review/critique. In part 4, I'll cover the intermission DLC content. Anyways, if you made it this far into the video, thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe.